Everyone says that the Fujifilm X-T4 in 2026 is outdated. And they are wrong, but not for the reasons that you think. I almost sold this camera last year. I have this camera since 2020 when it was released, and there's some specific things I was frustrated with this camera. The first one being the autofocus, which is not great at all. It does the job, but most of the times you need to do a manual focus, or you just need to rely on the existing autofocus, which you can hear the noise of the lenses. The lenses and the camera, they feel very heavy. Online, everyone just saying about the Sony and the DJI Osmo Pocket. But I've kept it and I use every single week since 2023-2024. So today, as someone who owns the camera, taking pictures and making videos every single week, I can definitely say I'm going to give you the answer if the Fujifilm X-T4 is still worth it in 2026. My name is Pedro, I work full-time as a software engineer at Siemens, and I'm building this YouTube channel to do tech reviews about the products that I actually use. I'm not a professional photographer or videographer, I'm just someone who likes to do videos and actually make tech reviews on YouTube. Okay, let's start with what I think genuinely hold up the Fuji cameras, and it is the image quality. The image quality is amazing. I think the color accuracy, the sensor of this camera, it does a great job, and you can actually see things with a very good color accuracy and sharpness. I often use the Fujifilm recipe, so as you can see, I can basically change the colors, and we have that for movie, but also we have for still. It's just custom camera simulations that you can even see at the Fujifilm X recipe app that mimic classic film stocks. So you can basically set up contrast and other things and be able to reuse them without having to mess up your camera every time you want to take a specific picture in a specific look. So when I put a shot with this camera, specifically with the 23mm 1.4 wide open, it has a look you don't get from many cameras, and I can definitely tell you that I've took some pictures with different cameras, and what this thing delivers is actually amazing. The colors, the skin tone, the texture, the Fujifilm sensor still produces something that for me is unique. If you shoot with Eterna or Classic Negative for YouTube B-roll, the footage straight out of the camera looks very cinematic with almost no color grading. So how do I usually shoot is, I love the 23mm, is the equivalent of a 35mm in the normal full frame sensors, but the main problem for me is that I film myself in a very tiny room and I get myself very cropped with these specific lenses. So most of the times I'm filming myself with the 16mm, which for me it creates a nice 24mm aspect ratio, and also I become a little bit more into the landscape rather just of a head talking shot. I also like the 10-24mm f4, which it doesn't create the bokeh as nice as the 16 or 23 because they're 1.4, but still for me it does a very nice quality in terms of what it delivers. This 16mm, it's a very old model. I don't know if they have a new model, but one thing that I know for sure is whenever I take a picture, I create a custom simulation for the 16mm because the color of the 16mm lenses for some reason is just different compared to these two, which I believe is the newer versions. So I believe this is the newer version because as you can see, this one has this cap while this 16mm has this very strange old cap. So that's what I think make me believe that this probably is an older version in that case. You're probably buying a glass that will outlast your camera body because I do hold these things. I took them to rain, sand, and for them to be weather seal and very resistant and even be able to fall on the floor and not break it, I really take this as a solid beast in terms of like taking them anywhere and not worrying about weather or anything. We have over here the dedicated dials. So for example, I will move from the steel because it's very bright, and I'll show over here we can basically swap the dials using this dial over here and go and change anything that we want. So for me it's actually very nice because it helps to basically play around with all the specific settings without having to go over here. When I'm in the video mode, this actually doesn't work. I don't know if it's something that they did intentionally so you don't mess up, or it's a built-in feature, but if you are on the still mode, yes, then you can just tweak from these settings over here. And also if you click to lock in, you can lock in and you cannot change your ISO, which is actually very nice if you don't intend to change your ISO anytime soon. Alright, so now let's talk about the problems of this camera. So for me, the first problem is the autofocus. So if I put very close over here, how the lens does some noise when trying to refocus. So yeah, it does this noise. The autofocus is not super slow. I usually just film myself sitting down and talking, and what I notice from that is that everything just works and it's fine because the camera has a good face tracking, so it can just track my face, my eye, and it won't actually disappoint me on that. About moving objects, the camera can still, I don't think compared to Sony, record that nice and clear in terms of like moving from one moving object to another moving object, but it can still film quite quickly as well. So another problem of this camera is the weight. The camera body by itself is 600 grams, and this lens over here easily more 400 grams. So we're talking every time that I'm taking this out, I'm easily carrying 1 kilo if I'm putting lighting and also a rig and carrying around. So we're talking about bodybuilding level of weight over here, and you carry this for 1-2 hours, you'll feel your arms definitely, and unfortunately that's the price you pay for quality. So now let's talk about who should buy this specific camera. So if you already own it, I would say don't sell it. The image quality is still great, the autofocus has workarounds. If you shoot mostly photos and some video, this is the best second-hand mirrorless camera you can buy right now for still quality per dollars. So the film simulations alone are very worth it, and if the video is secondary, I would say just buy it. So this is my conclusion about the Fujifilm X-T4 in 2026. It's not a plug-and-play camera, so unfortunately, if you don't have time or the patience to learn about how to use a proper mirrorless camera, unfortunately, this is not for you. But if you're someone who like tweaking, who like learning and setting up the best shooting quality possible, this camera is definitely for you. I have since 2020, and now 6 years later, this camera for me still looks brand new. So with the knowledge that I have in 2026, would I still buy the Fujifilm X-T4? No. I would either buy the Sony cameras because I think they're better for videography, and if I had to also consider, another option would be the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 because it's compact, it's simple, and it shoot 4K quality as good as this one. So because it's just simple and easy to use. Do I regret buying and owning it? Not even a little. Actually, I think this has taught me a lot about filmmaking and camera because I've learned about ISO, aperture, and many other things that without having a manual camera like this, I would never know and understand.